Welcome to another episode of the Sadie6 Hospitality Podcast. Today's guest is Joshua Altman, founder and managing director of Beltway Media, a strategic communications agency helping businesses, founders, and organizations sharpen their message, build trust, and connect with the audiences that matter most. Before founding Beltway Media, Joshua worked as a journalist covering politics and public policy, giving him a unique perspective on how messages are created, how reputations are built, and why some organizations break through while others struggle to be heard. In hospitality, we often talk about food, service, operations, and of course technology. But increasingly, the businesses that win are the ones that communicate clearly, build trust, and of course tell a compelling story. Today, we're going to explore communications, founder visibility, crisis management, of course AI, trust, storytelling, and what hospitality operators can learn from the worlds of politics, media, and business. So Joshua, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about what led you to found Beltway Media.
It was sort of an accident, actually. I was working as a news producer. I thought that I would stay a news producer for my whole career. I left that, thought I'd be a freelance reporter for a couple of years, go back to a newsroom full time. That didn't happen the way I thought it would work out. While I was doing that, there were companies, small, medium businesses looking for someone who had video experience because I was doing video and multimedia production. They were looking for someone who had writing and content creation and digital and tech background. And they wanted all that without the $50,000 a month minimum big agency retainer. And that was something we were able to do. So over time, that grew into what we do now, the fractional chief communications officer.
Now, CCO, chief communications officer, may be unheard of to a lot of the listeners today. How would you typically describe the CCO in a company?
Two big focuses. The first is shape perception. The second is build and maintain trust. So it's different from the marketing, CMO. It's different from the branding, CBO. This is a fully integrated, big picture view of how communications and how messaging impacts reputation, growth, and stakeholder confidence. So it includes your marketing, it includes your branding, advertising, it includes investor relations, it includes your internal communications, which sounds like a lot, and it is. And that's why you're really starting to see this role become more popular at Fortune 500s, at major universities, at big league sports franchises. You're really starting to see it come in. And then it's also coming in at the smaller side as well, less than 250 employees, where they don't need a full division for each of those things, but they need all those people playing the same song. They need them all on the same message. So bringing it under one department makes sense there as well. It's all companies that, at least on the fractional side, they don't need someone 40 hours a week doing this. They don't need that full-time employee. Yeah, they're looking for that role filled, but they're looking at who's doing it now. And it's the CEO, it's a founder, it's, the CTO, because they built that website originally and it sort of just stayed on their desk for however many years, even though they don't want it anymore. It's the operations officer. It's someone like that who's doing it. And they're not seeing a need for the full 40-hour-a-week role. That's why they bring it in fractionally.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of the industries, it's across all industries. You'll see it in restaurants and hospitality. You'll see it also in startups and tech and energy and professional services, law, finance, and healthcare.
And so if we go back to the beginning, what did journalism teach you about communication that most businesses still don't understand, you think?
Stories, connecting with people, how to use your different platforms and different media well and effectively. I was a multimedia producer. I was doing video, I was doing web, I was doing interactivity, all those sorts of things. I wasn't just writing 800 words to post online. So it was, how do we bring all those together to connect with our audiences and tell the story we want to tell? And in a lot of cases, especially today, you have far more platforms and more choices than you ever had before.
Yeah, it's kind of not knowing where to start, really, isn't it? I mean, they say LinkedIn now has become a powerhouse for communications for businesses. How do you rate LinkedIn?
It can be very effective if you are going B2B. It can even be effective if you're going direct to a consumer. It depends on what you're doing and how you're doing it. Paid ads work, organic is great. It is officially by its nature a business social network, but we're all also humans first. If you run a business and you make big B2B sales, you're making those purchases. You're also on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram, and you're seeing the things that exist in the world. If you're a restaurant customer, you go, like many of us do, and you're on LinkedIn, you're still seeing the things that all of us see. So you really want to get people across as many touch points as possible. The old statistic was it takes 7 to 14 touch points for someone to make a decision. I think it's much higher. That's a much older statistic. I think now, if you really look at it, it's much higher. Because if you count every time someone scrolls past a mention of your brand and just sort of quickly reads it, quickly sees your logo, sees a news article written up about you, sees that paid ad, but takes no action, it's a lot more than 7 to 14. But those things are all priming them to take the action eventually because they're seeing it and they're internalizing that company, that logo. So when they walk by your restaurant on the street, it's already in their head, even if they've never clicked one of your many paid ads. They've seen it.
When you go into some of the businesses that I'm sure you support, where the operators, whether it's hospitality or another industry, are just so slammed with things they've got to be getting on with on a daily basis, how do you turn around and say, well, you need to be doing this 10 to 15 times a day?
That's a good thing. You don't have to be doing it 10 to 15 times a day. You have to have someone doing it. And that's why a lot of people want to take this task off their desk, and they've been doing it for too long, and put it on someone like us, your fractional chief communications officer. And even then, we're not making 15, 30 blog posts a day. We're not doing 30 Instagram posts per day. That 30 is how many times over some window that someone might need to see something about you to take an action. You can't do it that much. And even if you have a dedicated team, you can't do it that much. They have actual other tasks to do than replying to every Instagram comment, because hopefully you have so many, you can't reply to them all.
And search engine optimization obviously is a big part of the working day now. What kind of tips and tricks do you have for that? Because from my understanding, the more you're on these social platforms, the greater your search engine optimization is, the more people are going to notice you when they're putting your name into Google or ChatGPT. How do you advise operating search engine optimization? What tips and tricks do you generally give?
Well, there are no tricks. There are a few things that generally provide benefit. Nothing is going to be the silver bullet. It's not a recipe. There's no do these 5 steps and you'll get the perfect out. Post the right amount. That doesn't mean post 10 times a day, because at a certain point, what's going to happen is diminishing returns. No one's going to see those posts because you have so many of them. They're basically crowding each other out. Post what feels right. Post things that are useful and that provide value. Because when people go into things like ChatGPT and start asking, what restaurant should I go to for my anniversary, they're going to see those answers. But if you have too much and you're not providing that information, say, great for your anniversary dinner, here are some places to go in your content, it's skipping you entirely. If you're only posting very quick things that don't have depth, it won't necessarily reach the people you want to reach. The idea is basically create a lot of surface area, because that's what it's crawling. And these AI models, they do some of their own backend, but a lot of it's pulling directly from Google search. Even if you just go in and do a Google search now, those first results are their AI results. The secondary search window that comes at the bottom of those is their AI search window. It's prompting you to go in and do this. So you want that part of it. Also, good reputation websites that are easy for these things to crawl. So of course, Instagram is there. Reddit is big. It crawls Reddit a lot. Your own website or things you own media are going to be great. But the key with that is you have to structure it the way it wants it structured.
I think that's where it gets a little bit challenging. Well, from our side anyway, a little bit challenging understanding. Because you say you've got these various channels of communication. You've got the socials, you've got LinkedIn. When it starts its crawl, the AI, does it go more to a particular place? I mean, how does it work exactly?
They don't tell us. The best we know are things experts in AI search have inferred and kind of figured out based on hints these companies give. We have a sense of how Google works based on their original PageRank algorithm. And for the most part, it's been tweaked around the edges. PageRank, you want inbound links, you need outbound links. How credible your thing is pretty much still the core of all of this, is looking for authority. So if a lot of things link to you, you're authoritative. If you are a very highly ranked post on Reddit about restaurants in Washington, D.C. or New York or London, that will help you because it looks at all those votes as a credibility marker. That's what it wants to see. But also your own content, stuff on your website, if you need to have that in a way that it's structured. So when you get those inbound links to you, AI is crawling saying, following the path of the internet, basically, or Google's doing it. What you can see or what it sees is the structured backend, and it knows what to create as the output.
And you mentioned Reddit. Reddit, I don't know personally how popular it is here in the UK. I mean, it's certainly not something you hear a lot about. Tell us a little bit about Reddit and how it can be used and what your opinion is of it and when you use it.
It can be very effective for almost any type of business. The organic works. They have a paid ad platform. It's very different than some of the other social channels because of how it breaks everything into communities. You have to follow those communities' rules. If you're just spamming, come to our restaurant, you're going to get blocked. They're going to ban you. Get it too much, the site's going to ban you. You might not know you're banned, which is a different problem if you're trying to create your content there. So you have to really work that organically in addition to the paid ads, because on any platform you do have to pay. This isn't 2010 anymore. If you want reach, you do need to have some kind of paid ad or, post boosting budget, because at a certain point, you're going to get limited. That's how these platforms make money, is people buying ads.
Looking at Reddit myself, I do understand you have to be patient with it, don't you? You can't expect an immediate return the day after.
Long-term investment. You're looking at a year to really get that maximum benefit, because you just have to be on it a lot. You have to be engaged. You have to be doing things that are related to what your lane, London restaurants, but also across the site. You have to be a real person. The people on it have done, the users, not the owners, the users are much more tuned than on some other platforms of bots, of spam, of their rule breakers, if you're on a particular community. And I have clients, they've gotten called on it, that it was just too self-promotional.
But like you say, I think the frustrating thing is you don't know. That's crazy. So you can be trying and persevering with all of these, hopefully, sales techniques that maybe just go into a blank wall and you have no idea.
Getting banned, you might not know. You'll figure it out once you have, a week or so with no engagement on your content. You'll be able to kind of see something has to be going on here. But generally, you don't know until it's going to take time. If you're expecting to make a post and have your Friday night bar be filled because of it, that's probably not going to happen for you if you do it on Reddit. If you post paid ads on some other platform, hey, come here for 50% off drinks on Friday night, that might get you a lot more return on that.
So what do you think are some of the biggest communication mistakes that founders generally tend to make?
They think everyone is as knowledgeable on their product or their service as they are. And that's something we all do. That's something we do in our own lives privately. It's just a human habit that we're all going to fall into. If you have something, especially something complicated, you have restaurant industry, back-end software, you have the tech that starts running kitchens and does ordering, you are very knowledgeable about that. The chef, probably less knowledgeable about back-end infrastructure ordering technology as they are about being a chef and running a kitchen and recipes and cooking, which is why we say we're the expert at communicating your expertise. You are the expert in your restaurant. You are the expert in your cuisine. We are the experts at communicating that. You don't have to be. So when we work with companies, we come in and they might have very good technical documentation, but it's not helping people discover them. It's not helping move new people towards them because most people aren't understanding it. Especially if you deal with startups like we do, it's much more engineering and technical heavy than many buyers are going to read at that early stage.
So I guess you must have a different, perhaps tone of voice isn't the right way to explain it, but across the different industries, I mean, different industries communicate in a different way. And obviously restaurants and hospitality are outgoing and fun and how do you communicate the best, you think, within each of those industries? What kind of things do you take on board to understand that industry to then go and communicate the best that you think able to?
We listen to the client a lot. It's really having a conversation with them, looking at the materials they've already put out. Because when we come in, we work people through our two frameworks. The story, narrative, brand framework we use a lot. People call us at the brand stage, which means they have something generally. Because we said, if story had the characters, the setting, it's the stuff you tell your friends at the bar. It's the way it's assembled there. Narrative connects the dots, it answers questions, and brand is the swag. It's the stuff. It's every touch point someone has. It's every way someone interacts with your business. So what we do is we look at all those brand elements, which is everything from menus to advertisements to the TED Talk your chef gave, all of it. And then we figure out, is this the voice you want to have? This is what you're doing. You said it's fun. It's inviting by definition. You're inviting people in. Is that what you're giving out in this message? Is that how you're communicating it? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. And then we'll develop that brand voice, which for Michelin-starred restaurant can be very different from that fun after work bar. And we're going to figure out what that is for you and how we want to communicate for that particular establishment. Because everyone's going to be a little different, even if it's all, welcome, inviting, come here, celebrate, have a good time. The words you use, the sentence structures, the tone will be very different between the place with the Michelin stars and hang out here after work and blow off some steam. They're going to do different things. And that's what we're really looking at.
And what generally makes a message memorable?
A lot of different things. Sometimes it's a visual, sometimes it's the word, sometimes it's a jingle. We all have those jingles that are stuck in our head from, 20 years ago. They just pop back in. We remember them for a reason, but it's something that sticks with you. And again, for each person, that can be a little bit different because while you'll love the music and love the jingle, I might look at the pictures and the visuals and be like, that's what sticks in my mind. And you have to really combine them all to be maximally effective.
And do you, obviously some commercials on the TV are maybe, 30 seconds. I'm not sure exactly what the standard is, but how quickly do you aim to clearly identify to a customer, clearly highlight and identify what it is that company's about? Do you kind of say within the first 10 seconds?
Second is all you have before someone turns away, especially on mobile, because those could be 5, 10, 15-second ads on mobile. You have to get it in really fast because they might just be like, I don't want to watch an ad to watch this YouTube video. Close. They're done. And you might have only had 2 to 3 seconds with them. And that's all you're going to get.
And so what tips do you generally say? You say, we've got 5 seconds to get this message across. What kind of things do you like to include within that 5 seconds?
Start with that. You can't include everything.
Yeah.
There's no way you could say, come down to our restaurant. Here's the name. Here's the address. Drink specials from, 4 to 7 on Tuesday night. Like, that's more than 5 seconds worth of stuff. Get out the basics. Who you are, where they can find more. That might be a website. It might be come down. If you have that physical location, it could be a phone number. Whatever you want that call to action to be on that particular ad. Usually because it's mobile, it's video. That's just how we are engaging mostly now. It's a URL or a QR code and you can click. Thankfully, on most modern devices, you could click right on the text on the screen, right on the QR code, and it takes you where you need to go, which does help with that frictionless experience you want them to have because you only have a few seconds. You have to get it in. But we all remember there are those really great, memorable ads that we don't know what they are until 25 seconds in. And that's a whole different type of advertising, which doesn't necessarily work in the 5-second, 10-second click world. But you can be effective with that in some instances. You just have to know your audience and know your platform.
And in terms of the message, would you say the visual message is more important, is a bigger seller than the herd, or is the herd bigger than the vision?
So we have what we call our 4 languages model, where people read, see, hear, and experience. So read, people pretty much get. It's what you read. See is the visual, it's graphics, it's videos, it's all of that. Hear, that's music, that's spoken word, that's podcasts. It's in-restaurant audio. It's the music that you play over your speakers, and experience is kind of 2 different things. The first is real experiences. That's what people tend to think of. It's conferences and pop-ups and conventions and going places. But it's also how people experience what they read, see, and hear, and how those amplify each other. What you want, especially today, when people might not really be giving you their full attention. I know people listening to this, we have maybe 30% of their attention right now. If they're walking the dog, if they're making dinner, if they're driving, we don't have their full attention. We have some of it. You need to use all those channels to amplify each other. They also have to stand on their own in many cases because someone might be watching but have the sound off. Someone might be listening but not actually paying attention to the visual because they just want to get through this ad to get to the thing they want. So they just started looking up something else, but the ad's still playing. So you have to look at all of them and think about who might be paying attention to one, who might be paying attention to the other, and where you might have someone paying a little bit of attention to both, but they're really thinking about their kid in the next room and it just suddenly got quiet.
How do you think trust is earned within a business?
Trust is the most important thing. You have to have it. People won't buy from you if they don't trust you. And if you're in the restaurant industry, as you know, trust everything's going to live and die on trust. You're basically asking people to let some strangers cook for them on and be served with things they've never seen, touched, handled, and hope it's all clean and healthy and not going to hurt them in any way. Trust is more important in this industry than in many others, but it is the be all end all if you don't have it. The way you earn it is you show it. Show that you are the reason people can trust you, that external validation. So if you are that Reddit post and you made it to a top, list of places to go and people recommend you. Someone said, where can we go in London for our anniversary? And everyone said, hey, go to Tim's restaurant. It's great. Go there. That's great external validation. People are going to trust you based on that. If you get a lot of inbound links to your newsletter, to your posts, that's going to be great validators of trust. But also things that you can control a lot more than that. Reviews on your website. Feature great ones. Show them that people come and trust you and want to spend time at your restaurant. Another one is just have content and show you're knowledgeable. That's what a lot of these AI systems are looking for, is real authority over time. And it's looking for that over time a lot.
And how quickly do you think trust can be lost within a business?
Seconds. It can go incredibly fast. And if it goes that fast, it's not coming back.
Yeah, because that message obviously with socials now. How do you think you can try and retrieve that? If you're in a restaurant, you can write a review, take a photograph there and then of your dish. It goes out. You as a restaurateur see that message go out. You're there watching it stream. What can you immediately step into play to try and retrieve what obviously is not a great message going out?
It's counterintuitive to a lot of people, especially if it's your restaurant and you're watching this happen in real time. Sometimes, and this is not true every time, the best thing to do is strategic silence, because the worst thing you can do is pour gas on a fire in some cases. You don't want to do that. Sometimes you have to step in, respond to, negative Yelp, Google reviews, Angie's, whatever you're doing. Respond to negative ones, mostly because it will help build up trust, show you're attentive, but also your response rate on those particular platforms makes a difference. If they see the owner responding, you get a better rating, you get more prominence than an owner who's absent on those platforms. You definitely need that.
And when you do respond, should you go direct to the individual themselves or go public with it?
Depends on how they did it. Usually what we would recommend for most people, if it was like a bad Google review, someone posted a picture and said, this looks inedible. Someone said, the service here is terrible, and it's on their Twitter or their Instagram, or it's a Google restaurant review, on your page. Write the reply directly to them. It's already publicish because other people can see it, but it's not on your page. It doesn't look like you own it. It looks like you're trying, and hopefully you are trying genuinely to address whatever the concern was, because that's what people are looking for. While keep in mind that, yes, I say you should respond to all these Google and Yelp negative reviews. The people who are more likely to write a review, as I'm sure people like you in the restaurant industry know, or in hospitality know, are the people who are angry, are the people who have a bad experience. More people are going to write the 1 stars than the 5 stars, because people who have 5 stars are like, this is great, I'll go on with my day. The people who have something to complain about are more likely to be the ones to be vocal about.
I don't know if it's exactly a statistic, but they say someone who enjoys it, has a good time, will tell one other person. Someone who has a negative experience will tell 10 other people. It's that detrimental to the business. So I understand.
I think you're lucky if it's 10. They'll post it on Twitter or Instagram and Google reviews, and that's out to everyone.
Yeah, times have changed.
10 is very small in that case.
Do you think a business can survive poor communication if its product is absolutely exceptional?
It's possible. I mean, nothing is really impossible. It's a lot harder because people need to know about it, and people need to know you have that great product. You can go entirely on word of mouth that you have this great product. You can have bad website. You can have that bad public presence. And some people do this strategically. You have to be very careful with it. Not everyone can really pull it off. And I've seen companies have websites that look like they're out of the 1990s. That's really what they are. But then you look at the back end, and it's a modern website designed for optimization that people can use. So they are strategically using this, we're going to be kind of slow and behind the times strategy. They'll have the occasional social media post, the occasional paid ad, but less so. It's a tough strategy to make work, but people do it.
And what do you think would make a hospitality brand memorable in particular?
If it's food, it's a dish that people can remember. It doesn't even have to be the best tasting. It's something that wows them, that comes to the table. I mean, there was a period where they made salads at your table, and that was a big thing that people remembered and told their friends about. They're doing this at your table. That's something memorable. Something that people can walk away with and be like, okay, I'll come back for that. or tell their friends about. Not post that great 5-star review, although we'd all love that, but something that comes up in conversation that they remember. I talked about, go here for your anniversary dinner. They remember that in 5 years and come back because they know that was a great experience for them. And again, it could be that the food was wowed them and it was great. It could just be the environment. It could be how you set up the flow of coming in and out and sit down, and just everything about it was just what made it a good experience for them. And again, like so many things in communications, what does that for you is going to be very different than what does it for me, which is why when you see, people are setting up their restaurants, they're looking at all of these things, knowing that we're all going to take them in differently and subconsciously weigh these things very different.
And do you think if we look at an independent restaurant, independent hospitality business, hotel, etc., do you think that the founder should build themselves a personal brand as well as the operation itself? How much they should involve their family, bring in the kids into the photographs, or should it focus more on the business itself, the products, the surroundings, the atmosphere, etc.?
It depends on what you want to promote it as. If it is a family-friendly establishment, having family in it will be very, very beneficial. A lot of times your kids aren't going to want to do that, especially if they're a little older. A lot of people have concerns about putting their family online and doing that. I would never tell someone to go in that direction because these kids are younger. They don't want to necessarily have this footprint for the rest of their lives or something they had no control over. But for you, personally, as the owner, as the founder, you need to have something. We talked a lot about trust, and people respond much better if the message is coming from you, a person, versus the business. Business pages don't do as well as the founder, as the owner, as a principal. What you have there is people just want to see the face. They want to see the person. They want a name. They don't want Acme Restaurant. They don't want Neighborhood Bar. They want to see you and you to be the messenger. And those get a lot more reach and people connect with it much better. Even if it's a video ad and you're in it, but it says it's all from the restaurant's profile, it won't get the same reach as that exact same thing showing you coming from people.
And what do you think the difference is between being visible and being kind of self-promotional?
A very fine line. And you have to be a little self-promotional. That's just how it's going to work. Remember that people are human on the other end of it. Don't be too shameless all the time. There's nothing wrong with being a little shameless about it some of the time because you're going to have to. And I know for people who are in, a kitchen, that's where they are, that's where they're comfortable. It's very different than being the face behind the keyboard on the camera. That might not be where you're comfortable. The irony is that works better in a lot of cases. Showing that you are uncomfortable, showing that discomfort can actually have a net positive impact because it comes off because it is more authentic. If you're stumbling a little bit, if you have these weird edits every couple seconds because you just have to keep stopping and starting and you can't make it through a full 1 minute read to camera, which as someone who's had to do it and train people to do it, doing 1 minute to camera nonstop can be incredibly difficult, especially if you're not a professionally trained actor. That is a tough skill to have. So if you're stopping and starting and there are these edits, it looks more real. There's a reason that the getting ready videos and the sitting in the car videos and people holding up a little, lavalier microphone or the wired earbuds with the microphone, that works because it shows a little bit of vulnerability and that they're not totally comfortable here. Use it.
And is consistency more important than creativity, do you think?
You need a little bit of both. Consistency that you can manage. So going back to what I said earlier, you don't need to be doing 5-10 posts a day. You'll crowd yourself out. But be available, be posting, be visible reliably more than, say, consistently. If you cannot manage 3 posts a day, don't do it. If you don't have the ideas, the content, call us. We have never run out of content for someone. There's always something we can do. But that's a worry people have is, can I do this and not run out? You will not run out. There's always some content you can create. But if it's overwhelming, manage the cadence that feels right, that works for you, because you need to be creative. But not everything is going to be the most creative post in the world. Not every blog post you write, not every dish you make is the most creative dish in your restaurant. Some are going to be the pretty much standard things people are expecting. Some of them are those great creative dishes that you love to make.
And how do you think posting has changed over the last 5 to 10 years?
It's become formulaic in a lot of ways. AI has accelerated that because AI is trained on what's out there. So if you go into ChatGPT or Claude or whatever and say, write me a LinkedIn post to promote the new, summer menu at our restaurant, it will do it. It will look like every other restaurant that went in and said, write me a LinkedIn post to promote the summer menu at our restaurant. It will tell you exactly the same thing. It's not the most creative. It's very utilitarian. If you want something that's a little bit of both, use AI as that tool. Help me write this. What do I need? And then go in and make it your own, because that's what's going to make it work for you. But you don't need to have everything be that most creative post. You'll have that. Everything's going to kind of condense to simple utilitarian with those standouts, of course, because that's what we see. That's what we're expecting. Why do TV shows have similar themes on them? Why do we have 4 shows about people working in offices on the same network? Because we can do those. We know what to expect.
Has your own approach to visibility, do you think, changed over the last few years?
It's changed a lot. Sometimes because AI, sometimes because we're seeing different trends. Yeah, what we used to do was focus a lot on you needed perfect visuals. And my background is in production. You need the perfect visuals, great sound, looks, lighting, editing, everything had to be perfect. What we're finding now is that Hollywood quality work backfires in many cases because it's inauthentic. You still have to meet certain standards. You need lighting. You have to be visible. People have to see you. You need good enough sound. People need to be able to hear you. They need to be able to understand you. But you do not need a super high-end microphone kit for your TikTok video. You don't need a dozen lights for your TikTok video. You need something that's pretty good and people can see and hear you. And that's been a big shift that we've seen and that we're implementing ourselves because you need that level of authenticity. People are looking for that. If it looks too good, as authentic as it could be, people will look at it and have the opposite reaction that you want. Like, it's a little too polished. This can't be real. It's AI generated. It's fake. They put a huge budget in and it's not really the restaurant I'm going to.
And what are your thoughts on YouTube Shorts? And I ask because my kids, I just can't take them away from the screen when it's on. What do you think it's all about? Because, I mean, it is just so rapid, isn't it? They can flick through these channels.
Yeah.
And obviously TikTok is kind of along those lines as well, isn't it? Where do you see this all going?
I think there'll be eventually a point where we can't get faster, where there can't be more. I don't know if we've hit that yet, but it is a constant, nonstop feed of media, of those videos. And if you are the business owner, someone's looking on their phone, they could just swipe to the next one in half a second. You have so little time to create engagement, to really draw them in. Looking at that, you know you're going to get something, but that something might be too short to actually move the needle for them, which is why we talk about those possibly 30 or more touch points. Mm-hmm. That half a second, they might have gotten your name, a logo. They might have seen the outside of your business. Okay, that's one. That's something. That's something recognizable. Now you need 29 plus more because they're going to be scrolling through so many times. And the algorithm is going to feed them what they want to see. And it changes very dramatically from actively seeking things out and possibly accidentally stumbling on something when the algorithm is really making live decisions based off of your history on what to show you. Because you might never show up for someone who could be great for you. Mm. Because the algorithm doesn't know that.
And I imagine a certain proportion of your role, of your support to companies must be crisis communications. I mean, what are some of the biggest mistakes that businesses can make during crisis?
Lie, get caught, usually is a big one. Don't say something that you can't back up, which is why I mentioned strategic silence. If you need to take a minute, do that. They'll say something that they find out later was not the best thing to say. Another big one is they don't prepare. They think it won't happen. They think they can manage it. We think of crisis communications like fire drills. You do them, you practice them, everyone knows them, everyone knows what to do. You hope you never actually have to do it. Every, quarter, half a year, whatever your cadence is, you take out the plan, you look at it, you put it back on the shelf. Hopefully it never comes out for real use. But you have everything there. People haven't thought through what they would do if something happens. And with a restaurant, they might be thinking our issues might be health and safety related. It could be food related, but it could also be technology related. If you think about it, every business now is a technology business. They could have people taking their customer information. They could have employees who are, cloning cards. They could have data breaches on employee records. There could be a lot of things that are all nothing to do with the actual restaurant part of it, that are just business things that everyone's dealing with. And I think that's another one where people don't think the potential crises outside of their core industry.
And when you're I imagine you're giving suggestions and briefings on how to manage and control complaints, What kind of tips and tricks do you have for handling an apology?
Be sincere about it. We all know what the non-apology apology is. The I'm sorry if our food might have caused you some sort of distress. Like, well, no one's buying that. Be sincere about it. Try to make it right. The same rules with apologizing in your own personal life. That's what people are looking for. They're looking for something real. If you can't back it up, try something else.
It's that difficult one because I know from an operator's point of view, it's quite tricky accepting negligence in a particular, whether it's food poisoning in particular is a common
Yeah.
one. I've had templates put in front of me where it says no one else that came in last night has reported a similar problem. So obviously we have to think of you as an exception. I mean, it's very difficult. It's that fine line, isn't it? Because as soon as you start accepting responsibility for something, you're exposed in this day and age.
Yeah. And that's why, when it comes to all communication, especially crisis communications, we say check with the legal team because you mentioned negligence. You don't want to create more exposure on something like that. You don't want to create a bigger problem, which is when it goes back to strategic silence. Take 10 minutes, take an hour, get everyone involved, which is why when we have these crisis communications plans, it includes exactly who needs to be reached, how to do it, who needs to be involved, who their backup person is. And a lot of this, like I said, is going to be pre-written. We're going to have these statements, press releases, everything's pre-written, kind of fill in the blank. So we don't have the scrambling under pressure to figure out if we can actually say this. And you can, of course, anticipate the most common thing. I'm going to go out on a limb and say no one anticipated that their CEO would be caught at a Coldplay concert with an employee who he shouldn't be caught with. That probably wasn't in anyone's crisis communication drills. It might be now, but it wasn't before. So you have to look at it and look at what broad category does that fit in. Employee crisis.
And what role do you think empathy plays during a crisis?
It's important. People need to believe you. Again, like if you can't actually back up the apology, back up the feelings, back up what you're saying, it's inauthentic and people won't buy it. And you'll ultimately make the problem worse.
Yeah, I think it's that balance, isn't it? If you're a big brand where obviously you've got a kind of corporate way of communicating, you want to bring empathy into it, but it's finding that balance between an independent company, a corporate company, and how you can communicate that.
It's harder for a big corporation, but also you have a lot more resources to be able to make it work. You can offer more to someone than, say, a very small independent restaurant can, just because they have giant corporate resources behind them to try and make it right. In that case, when you can, throw in, 3 free nights at the hotel, people might not care if you're empathetic or not. They're just happy that they got the 3 free nights, that they got their whole stay comped. They'll take it. Most businesses can't give your entire stay comped. It's just not mathematically going to work. So that's where you need to really think about, are you being genuine with them? Because that's trust and that's authenticity. If they trust you, you'll already have a lot more goodwill that you can work with than if they don't. But you can lose it really fast.
I can well imagine. And I think, more and more people now, we touched on it earlier about AI, ChatGPT, etc. How reliant would you be on ChatGPT? Because obviously it only knows from the past, but generally it seems to know most things about most situations and communicate in the right way. For an independent operator, how can they rely on ChatGPT, do you think, as a support service?
As a support service, it is a tool. That's all it is. If you're using it 100%, if you're just taking what it gives you, you're not going to have success with it. Think about this. It's a tool. You gave me a hammer. If you're lucky, you'll get a crooked birdhouse a bird doesn't even want to look at. Give a master craftsman that same hammer, you'll get a great looking structure that's structurally sound that families can live in for hundreds of years. We had the same hammer. He actually just knew how to use it, and I end up with a crooked birdhouse. Big difference, right? AI is the same way. If you give a chef AI and say, help me develop a menu, it'll come up with something. And the chef will be like, well, that's out of season. We can't do this. Those things don't go together. It'll know, you'll have that context to pull in. Same thing with communications. We'll be able to look at something and say, this works. This isn't in your brand voice. This contradicts the post we made last week. This doesn't work with our content calendar. So that's how you use it. It's a tool that helps you be more effective, be more efficient, and accomplish more. But if you're just taking its output, you'll have the same output as everyone else, and it might tell you to put glue on your pizza to stop the cheese from falling off, which is what one AI actually did.
Do you think we're heading towards a world where everyone starts sounding the same?
I think you'll see a lot of it sounding the same because a lot of it's going to be AI written, but you'll see both ends of it. You'll see a lot more same, but you'll also see a lot more very different content from the people who know how to use AI effectively as a tool. And I use it. It's great for certain things. It's great for outlines. It's great for research. It's terrible at writing final copy.
You can generally tell, can't you? With hyphens is the big one for me. I think that generally stands out.
Yeah, it uses those dashes much more than any human actually does. And, they say, well, put it through those AI detectors. Like, I've put stuff I know had no AI in it through those detectors, and it came out AI written because it's trained on good writing. People have put, the American Declaration of Independence in there and it came out with AI. People have put Bible verses in there and it came out as AI. Like, clearly not AI. But these are the kinds of things it's trained on. So yes, you'll see a lot of those same structures, but a key with the AI writing is it overuses the things that it thinks are great, that are effective. When the truth is that they are effective when they are used sparingly.
And how do you think businesses can maintain authenticity?
By actually being authentic. That's the easiest way to do it, which is hard. It is hard to be authentic that much because you're tired. You're in the kitchen. You're doing your business. You don't want to be posting really authentic content. You don't want to be doing that. You just want to tell AI, write my thing and be done. But actually doing it and maybe doing less overall will help. And showing that vulnerability, that those, challenges, like I said before with the videos, that really does help. People like to see that, like to see where you are kind of struggling just like everyone else, where you're tired at the end of the day like everyone else.
So your position on a daily basis, how long when you work with a client are you normally with them for? Is there a typical time or are you with some for a far longer period than others?
Typically years. Usually most projects start at a 2-year project. And that's because what we're doing just takes time. Like I said, you're using, Reddit. It could take a year for that to really start to turn to be effective for you. But you need to be doing it for that whole year. A lot of times we're going to come in and you have a lot there already. You've done a lot. Well, you can't turn that around in an afternoon. We're going to do it gradually and we're going to take our time with it and do it strategically. And building up the authority that if you want to be really high in search, that takes time. Good ad campaigns takes time.
Have you ever had to step into a company and look from the ground up and look at rebranding the whole picture and the whole outlook of the company?
It happens. Usually you have some things that you can keep that you want to keep. Sometimes you really need to go and do it's a full top to bottom rebrand. And we are a new name, a new look, a new everything. But that's dramatic. Most people don't want to do that because they have some goodwill, some built up with their existing brand. So they'll want to keep some elements, but maybe do a refresh. Apple has gone through a lot of logos in their company's history, but they all have certain elements that are consistent.
And what do you think with regards to attracting investment? What kind of role does communication play in that, do you think?
One of the most important, because that's how they're going to know what they're investing in. From that first pitch deck and first presentation to that final paper that they're signing, everything is through communications. And with that first pitch deck, they're going to all be looking at different things. A lot of times they are looking to see, are you believable? Can we put our money in you? Just straight, can I look you in the eye and think that this is a good idea? Is what one investor told me that he looks for. I just want to know I can look you in the eye and believe you. That is all this first pitch deck meeting is about.
And just for those,
other people are looking for other things.
Yeah, and just for those listeners that are unaware of what pitch decks are, these are the presentation packs, aren't they, that you give to a potential investor?
Yeah.
Tell them about the company and who you are. How many pages do you typically advise a pitch deck should be? Because there's different conflicting answers on this.
Short, relatively short. 7 to 9 is pretty good in most cases. When you start seeing, and again, these are for new businesses. If you are a long established company, you are on like a series E or F type fundraising round, it's going to be different. But if you're in that very early stage, 7 to 9 slides, you don't need a lot. It'll look pretty obvious if you're filling. If you're just, someone said, we need to have a dozen pages, so we're just adding in pages to have pages. You don't need that. Keep it simple, straightforward. And that's what they're looking for because these people see hundreds, if not thousands of these, a year.
You have the communication going out to potential investors, obviously to your clients, your customers. How important do you think internal communication is?
Just as important. You need it's an orchestra. Everyone has their own instrument, but they all got to be playing the same song. So you need your employees saying the same message. If they're front of house, if they're back of house, if they are an outsourced IT team, if they're your fractional CCO, you need them all on the same message. And that starts with giving them the same message. that this is who we are, this is our priorities, this is what we do. Obviously, the accounting team is going to have different information than the kitchen. That's fine. They need that. But you also have to be thinking of it as what will help them all deliver that same on-message content.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And I always like to end on some quick fire questions. So I'm just going to throw a couple at you. What do you think the biggest lesson from journalism has been for you?
Pay attention to everything.
It's a short answer. What about entrepreneurship?
Some things aren't going to work. Some things are going to work. That's just how it's going to play out.
The most underrated business skill?
Patience.
Most overrated?
Gregariousness, outgoingness.
One communication habit every founder should stop?
Talking just to talk.
Which I know a lot of people like to do, probably including myself. So I hold my hand up to that. Listen, Joshua, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. It's been really fascinating learning about how we should probably all do more to communicate in a better way.
Thanks for having me.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the C86 Hospitality Podcasts and leave us a review. At C86, we're helping hospitality operators find trusted suppliers, services, and support. If you're an operator, the platform is completely free to use, and you can find out more at c86.com. As always, thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.